The communication room of the HSS Vigilant hummed with quiet activity. Commander Kyle Brennan stood near the main display screen, watching the emergency session of the Galactic Council unfold. His ship floated in neutral space halfway between Earth and the Council headquarters. The message that had arrived 3 hours ago changed everything. Ambassador Lisa Morton appeared on the screen, her face tired and worried. She sat in the great chamber where representatives from 40 different species gathered. The Varath delegate stood at the center, his insect-like body trembling. His species never showed fear in public. That alone told Brennan how bad things were. "Please," the Varath delegate said, his translator making his clicks and chirps sound like desperate human speech. 17 of our worlds have gone silent. We detect no life signs, no broadcasts, nothing. The Kryn horde moves toward our core systems. They will arrive in 30 days. We need help. Lieutenant Amy Stone sat at the communications console beside Brennan. She pulled up the data files the Varath had sent. Images filled her smaller screen. Cities that once held millions now sat empty and dark. Orbital stations drifted without power. Some worlds showed strange biological growth spreading across their surfaces like mold. "Sir, these readings don't make sense," Stone whispered. "The Kryn aren't just attacking. They're consuming everything. The planets themselves are being digested." Brennan nodded slowly. He had read the classified reports about the Kryn. Every species that tried to negotiate with them died. Every single one. Yet the Council was about to do exactly that. Counselor Zeth Prime, a being made of living crystal that reflected light in rainbow patterns, raised one of his multiple arms. "The Council hears your plea, honored Varath. We will dispatch a diplomatic mission immediately. Surely the Kryn can be reasoned with. All thinking beings can find common ground." Dr. Peter Grant, the human cultural advisor, stood up quickly in the viewing gallery. "Counselor, the historical data shows that the Kryn have never accepted negotiation. They've destroyed 12 species in the past 1,000 years." Zeth Prime's crystalline face showed what might have been annoyance. "Dr. Grant, humanity is still young in the Council. You must learn that violence is never the answer. We have resolved conflicts through diplomacy for 10,000 years. The Kryn will be no different." The Varath delegate made a sound that the translator couldn't properly convert. It sounded like a sob. "Please. Our children are dying. Our worlds burn. Talking will take too long." "The Council will move with appropriate speed," Zeth Prime said. His tone suggested the matter was settled. "We will assemble a diplomatic fleet. 12 ships should be sufficient. We will arrive in 6 weeks and begin negotiations." 6 weeks. Brennan felt his jaw tighten. In 6 weeks, how many more Varath worlds would fall silent? He looked at Stone. "Get me a direct quantum link to Earth Defense Command. Encrypt it with the emergency protocols." Stone's fingers moved across her console. "Sir, that's against Council regulations. We're supposed to go through proper channels." "Do it anyway." The connection took 2 minutes to establish. Admiral Jack Warren appeared on a private screen. The old man looked like he'd been woken from sleep, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Brennan, this better be important. Admiral, the Varath are under attack by the Kryn. The Council just voted to send 12 diplomatic ships. No weapons, no defense fleet. Just diplomats talking while billions die." Warren was quiet for a moment. In the background, Brennan could hear him calling for his staff. "Send me everything you have on the situation. All of it. And Brennan, keep your ship ready to move fast." The connection ended. Brennan turned back to the main screen where Ambassador Morton was speaking with other human representatives. Senator Greg Mitchell looked furious, arguing with a luminary delegate about response times. Stone pulled up more Varath transmissions. These were raw feeds, not the sanitized versions shown to the Council. A Varath mother held her larvae close while buildings collapsed around her. A defensive station fired its weapons at approaching bioships until the ammunition ran out, then exploded. A school that stopped broadcasting mid-lesson. "Lieutenant, keep recording everything," Brennan said quietly. "Make sure nothing gets deleted or classified. People need to see what's really happening." Over the next several hours, the Council debated details. Which diplomats to send, what gifts to bring, what preliminary messages to transmit. They argued about protocol and proper greeting rituals. They discussed whether the Kryn might be offended by certain colors or sounds. Dr. Grant tried 3 more times to present evidence that the Kryn couldn't be negotiated with. Each time, older species on the Council dismissed him politely. Humanity was too young, too aggressive, too quick to assume the worst. The galaxy ran on diplomacy, not suspicion. Brennan watched the Varath delegate slump in his seat. The insect being had stopped trying to argue. He simply transmitted more death tolls, more silent worlds, more extinction events. The council acknowledged each update and continued debating proper diplomatic procedure. When the session finally ended, Ambassador Morton contacted the Vigilant directly. She looked exhausted. Kyle, they don't understand. They've never faced an enemy like this. Their oldest wars happened thousands of years ago. They've forgotten what real existential threat looks like. What do you need me to do, Ambassador? Stay close. Monitor everything, and pray that Earth Defense Command has better ideas than talk and hope. Brennan's console beeped. A coded message from Admiral Warren appeared. It was short and clear. Received your data. Analysis confirms your assessment. Stand by for further orders. Do not mention this to anyone. The Vigilant continued its patrol route while the Council's diplomatic fleet slowly assembled. Brennan watched the news feeds from Varath space. Another world went dark. Then another. The Kryn were accelerating their attack, probably sensing the Varath's desperation. Stone brought him coffee during the third watch. Sir, do you think Earth will actually do something? The Council will be furious if we break protocol. Brennan sipped the hot liquid and stared at the images of dying worlds on his screen. He thought about human history. The wars, the genocides, the times when evil couldn't be stopped with words. Humanity knew what happened when good people talked while bad people acted. Lieutenant, I think Earth is going to do exactly what needs to be done. And yes, the Council is going to be very upset about it. Outside the ship, stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere in that vast darkness, the Kryn fleet moved toward the Varath homeworlds. Somewhere else. Humanity was making decisions that would change everything. The question wasn't whether help would come. The question was what form that help would take. Brennan had sent his message. Now he waited to see what kind of answer Earth would provide. The quantum message from Commander Brennan reached Earth at 0300 hours local time. Within 15 minutes, Admiral Jack Warren was in the command center beneath Geneva. Within 30 minutes, President Catherine Blake was on a secure video call with the entire military leadership of Earth. The walls of the Situation Room displayed maps of known space. Red markers showed the Varath worlds that had gone silent. A projected path showed where the Kryn fleet was heading next. At the current rate, the Varath species would be extinct in 42 days. General Vincent Cole stood at the main display, pointing to the timeline. The Council's diplomatic fleet won't even arrive for 6 weeks. By then, there won't be anyone left to save. President Blake sat at the head of the conference table. She had been elected on promises of peace and cooperation with the Galactic Council. Now she faced a choice that would define her presidency and possibly humanity's place in the galaxy. Show me what we know about the Kryn. Dr. Helen Price, the military historian, brought up files on the secondary screen. They're not a traditional species. They're more like a biological weapon that gained intelligence. They consume organic matter and use it to grow their ships, their weapons, even their computers. When they take a world, they literally eat it down to the bedrock. Have they ever accepted a peace treaty? Blake asked. Never. We have records of 12 species that tried to negotiate. All extinct. The Kryn don't communicate except to announce their arrival. Then they attack and consume everything. Captain Ryan Foster attended the meeting via video link from the orbital shipyards. His ship, the UHSS Defiance, was one of 6 dreadnoughts in the Terran fleet. Ma'am, with respect, we all know what needs to be done here. The question is whether we have the courage to do it. Blake looked at the faces around her. These were people who had spent their careers preparing for threats that might never come. Earth had been at peace for decades, focusing on exploration and building relationships with alien species. The Terran Defense Fleet was meant to protect human colonies, not fight other people's wars. Admiral Warren, what would a full military response look like? Warren brought up force projections. We mobilize everything we have. 6 dreadnoughts, 42 carriers, 80 destroyers, plus support vessels and supply ships. Call it 340 combat-ready ships. We can have them moving within 24 hours. That's our entire fleet, General Cole said. If something goes wrong, Earth will be defenseless. If we don't act, the Varath die, Warren replied flatly. And after the Varath, the Kryn move to the next species. Eventually, they'll reach us. Better to fight them now while we have allies. President Blake stood and walked to the display showing the Varath worlds. She touched the screen where a planet called Varath Prime glowed blue. 14 billion people lived there. Most of them were civilians who had never hurt anyone. They were farmers and teachers and artists who happened to be born in the path of an unstoppable enemy. Dr. Price in Human History, when diplomacy failed against genocidal aggression, what worked? The historian didn't hesitate. Overwhelming force, ma'am. You can't negotiate with someone who wants you dead. You can only stop them. Blake turned back to her advisors. Every eye in the room watched her. This wasn't a decision she could make lightly. If she sent the fleet and the council expelled humanity, Earth would be isolated. If she sent the fleet and they lost, humanity would be weakened for generations. But if she did nothing, she would have to live with the knowledge that she could have saved billions and chose protocol instead. Gentlemen, ladies, I need to know something. If we send our fleet and people die, will you stand with me when the council demands answers? Admiral Warren spoke first. Ma'am, I'll take full responsibility. I'll tell the council it was my decision. No, Blake said firmly. This is my call. I'm the president. The responsibility is mine. She took a deep breath. Admiral Warren, you have authorization to mobilize the Terran Defense Fleet. Target Vareth Space. Mission: destroy the Kryn threat by any means necessary. The room erupted in activity. Officers began making calls, sending orders, pulling up logistics data. Captain Foster's image showed him turning to his crew, already issuing commands to prepare his ship. General Cole leaned close to the president. The council will see this as an act of war. They might expel us. Then we'll deal with that when it happens, Blake said. But I won't sit here safe and comfortable while billions die screaming for help that never comes. Human history is full of moments when good people did nothing. I won't add my name to that list. The mobilization began immediately. At shipyards orbiting Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies, crews rushed to their vessels. Captains cut shore leave short and recalled every available officer. Supply ships loaded ammunition, fuel, and emergency medical supplies. Captain Foster walked through the corridors of the UHSS Defiance as his crew prepared for deployment. The dreadnought was 3 kilometers long, bristling with railguns and missile batteries. It could fight off a dozen smaller ships or go toe-to-toe with another capital vessel, but the Kryn reportedly had thousands of bioships. His second-in-command, Commander Lisa Hayes, met him on the bridge. Sir, the crew is ready. We can launch in 18 hours. Make it 16, Foster said. Every hour we delay, more Vareth die. Across the fleet, similar conversations happened. Pilots checked their fighters. Marines loaded their weapons. Engineers ran diagnostics on engines and shields. Everyone understood what was coming. This wasn't a patrol or an escort mission. This was war. Admiral Warren boarded his flagship, the UHSS Liberty, and took his position in the command center. The massive ship served as the fleet's coordination hub, with advanced sensors and communications equipment. From here, he would direct the battle. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Danny Cruz, brought up the latest intelligence. Sir, we estimate the Kryn fleet at 2,400 vessels. They outnumber us 7-1. Then we'll need to be 7 times better, Warren said calmly. Cruz, start running combat simulations. I want to know every possible attack pattern the Kryn might use. President Blake sent a coded message to Ambassador Morton at the council. The message was simple: help is coming. Keep them talking as long as you can. She also recorded a statement to be released after the fleet departed. In it, she explained her decision and took full responsibility. She spoke directly to the Vareth people, promising that humanity would not abandon them. She spoke to the council, acknowledging that her actions broke protocol but insisting they were necessary. The final part of her statement addressed the people of Earth. We are sending our sons and daughters into danger. Some may not come home, but we do this because it's right. Because when innocent people cry for help, humanity answers, not with words, but with action. 16 hours after the order was given, the Terran Defense Fleet began launching from Earth orbit. Ship after ship engaged their drives and accelerated toward the jump points. The formation stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. Admiral Warren stood on the bridge of the Liberty and watched his fleet assemble. 340 ships, 60,000 crew members, humanity's entire military strength moving as one. All ships report ready, sir, Cruz said. Warren opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Warren. In a few minutes we jump to Vareth space. We're going to face an enemy that outnumbers us and has never been defeated. But we have something they don't. We fight for something bigger than ourselves. We fight so that innocent people can live. That's worth any risk. All ships, jump on my mark. The fleet vanished from Earth space in a brilliant flash of light. When they reappeared, they would be in Varath territory, between the Kryn and their prey. The die was cast. Humanity had made its choice. The Council's diplomatic convoy arrived at the edge of Varath space 3 weeks after departing from their headquarters. 12 ships, all painted in the peaceful white and gold colors of the Galactic Council, dropped out of faster-than-light travel expecting to find a war zone. Instead, they found a human armada. Counselor Zeth Prime stood in the command center of the lead diplomatic vessel. His crystalline body flickered with colors that indicated extreme confusion. On the screens before him, 340 human warships sat in perfect formation around the remaining Varath worlds. "This cannot be correct," he said, his translated voice shaking slightly. "Run the scan again." The ship's sensors confirmed what everyone could see. The humans had deployed their entire fleet. Massive dreadnoughts anchored defensive positions. Carriers launched patrol fighters that swept the system for threats. Destroyers formed picket lines between the Varath planets and the direction the Kryn would come from. Ambassador Lisa Morton stood beside the counselor, her face carefully neutral. She had known this was coming. President Blake's coded message had given her 12 hours warning. But seeing the fleet in person was still shocking. "Counselor, I can explain," she began. "Explain?" Seth Prime's colors shifted to angry reds. "Humanity has deployed a war fleet without council authorization. This is a violation of our most sacred treaties. This is survival," Morton said quietly. "While we were debating proper diplomatic protocols, 6 more Varath worlds went dark. Another 8 billion people dead. The humans decided talking time was over." Envoy Kareth of the Luminari species appeared on the communication screen. His species glowed with soft blue light that reflected their generally peaceful nature. Right now, that light pulsed with anger. "Ambassador Morton, your species has committed an act of aggression. The Council will have no choice but to expel humanity and impose sanctions." Senator Greg Mitchell, the other human representative, stepped forward. "Sanctions? While the Varath face extinction? With respect, Envoy, your priorities are insane." "How dare you?" Kareth began, but Morton raised her hand. "Let me show you something," she said. She pulled up data on the main display. "These are the Kryn's movements over the past 3 weeks. Here's where they were when we left Council headquarters. Here's where they are now. And here's where they'll be in 2 days." The projection showed the Kryn biofleet moving inexorably toward Varath Prime and the core worlds where most of the species lived. The timeline was clear and terrifying. "If we had waited for proper diplomatic procedures, we would arrive to find corpses," Morton said. "The humans understood something we didn't. Some enemies can't be reasoned with. They can only be stopped." Commander Kyle Brennan's ship, the Vigilant, approached the diplomatic convoy. He requested permission to dock with the Council's lead vessel. When he came aboard, he carried data chips containing everything his crew had recorded. "Councilors, senators, ambassadors," Brennan said formally. "I believe you should see what the Varath have been transmitting." He plugged the data chip into the display system. The room filled with images that made even the peaceful Luminari turn away. Varath children running from buildings as biomatter consumed the walls. Defense forces fighting until their weapons melted from overuse. Entire cities being digested while people were still inside them. The final recording was from a Varath teacher. She held her students close in a basement while the world above them died. "If anyone receives this," she said calmly, "please remember that we existed. Remember that we had art and music and love. Don't let the universe forget us." The transmission ended with static as the Kryn reached her location. The command center was silent. Several delegates were openly weeping. Even Zeth Prime's colors had shifted to deep purple, indicating profound sorrow. "You see now?" Morton asked. "This isn't about politics or protocol. It's about stopping monsters before they kill everyone. The humans didn't come here to conquer or to show off their military. They came because someone needed help and no one else was moving fast enough." Envoy Kareth's light had dimmed considerably. But bringing a war fleet? Surely there could have been another way. Senator Mitchell pulled up more data. The Kryn fleet consists of 2,400 bioships. Each one is larger than our biggest cruiser. The Council was sending 12 unarmed diplomatic vessels. Even if the Kryn agreed to talk, which they never do, what exactly were you planning to negotiate? "Please only eat half of the Varath." Admiral Jack Warren's voice came through on the communication channel. "Council representatives, this is Admiral Warren of the Terran Defense Fleet. We mean no disrespect to the Council or its traditions, but we have sworn an oath to protect innocent life. The Vareth called for help, we answered. If the Council wishes to expel us for that, so be it. But we won't leave until the job is done. Seth Prime struggled with the situation. His species had been part of the Council for 8,000 years. They had never faced a crisis that couldn't be solved through patient negotiation. The idea that violence might be necessary went against everything he believed. Admiral Warren, he said slowly, what is your assessment of the coming battle? The Kryn will arrive in approximately 43 hours, Warren replied. We've fortified the Vareth core worlds. We have evacuation plans if our defensive line breaks. The Vareth defense force, what's left of it, has joined our formation. They're brave fighters. With luck and good tactics, we can win this. And without luck, Counselor, the Vareth die and humanity's fleet dies with them. But at least we'll die trying to do the right thing. The Vareth Queen Mother, Thessia, appeared on another channel. Her insectoid face was difficult for most species to read, but her body language showed exhaustion and hope mixed together. Honored Council members, the humans arrived 18 days ago. In that time, they have not demanded anything from us. They have not tried to control our government or claim our resources. They have simply positioned themselves between us and death. She paused, her antennae twitching with emotion. My people have a word in our old language, shield bearer. It means someone who protects others at risk to themselves. We thought the concept was only myth. Then the humans came with 300 ships and proved it was real. Counselor Zeth Prime made a decision that would change galactic politics forever. Ambassador Morton, please inform Admiral Warren that the Council's diplomatic vessels will remain here to assist with any negotiations. However, we acknowledge that military force may be necessary. The Council will observe and offer what support we can. It wasn't approval. It wasn't authorization. But it also wasn't condemnation. It was the closest thing to blessing that humanity was going to get. Morton allowed herself a small smile. Thank you, Counselor. I'll inform the Admiral. As the diplomatic ships moved into safer positions behind the human fleet, Senator Mitchell approached Morton privately. You know the Council will still argue about this for years, right? They'll write papers about whether we were right or wrong. Let them argue, Morton said. While they write their papers, the Vareth will be alive to read them. That's what matters. Outside the command center windows, the human fleet continued its preparations. Fighters ran patrol patterns. Supply ships moved ammunition and fuel to forward positions. Medical vessels prepared for casualties. Every ship, every crew member understood that the easy part was over. The Kryn were coming, and humanity was ready. The Kryn arrived like a plague spreading across the stars. Their bioships emerged from faster-than-light travel in waves, each vessel grown from the consumed remains of previous victims. The ships were alive in a terrible way, pulsing with organic matter that had once been people, cities, entire ecosystems. Admiral Jack Warren stood on the bridge of the UHSS Liberty, watching the sensors track the enemy fleet. 2,400 contacts. The number didn't change his expression.
He had known what was coming.
All ships, this is Warren. Battle stations. Execute defensive formation Delta 7. Carriers, launch all fighters. Destroyers, take point positions. Dreadnoughts, stand ready for close engagement. Across the human fleet, alarms sounded. Crews that had been waiting for 2 days sprang into action. Fighter pilots sprinted to their craft. Gun crews loaded weapons that could punch through armor or vaporize biomatter. Marines prepared for boarding actions if it came to that. Captain Ryan Foster sat in the command chair of the UHSS Defiance. His dreadnought led the vanguard, the first line between the Kryn and the Vareth worlds. Around him, his bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. Shields at maximum, his tactical officer reported. All weapons charged and ready. Good, Foster said calmly. Remember, these things are tough, but they can be killed. We proved that in simulations. Aim for the neural clusters where the ships control themselves. Sever those and they're just floating meat. The Kryn sent their only message. It wasn't words. It was a psychic scream that echoed through communication channels, a sound of endless hunger and rage. Several human crew members clutched their heads as the alien minds broadcast their intention to consume everything. Cut that signal, Warren ordered. And someone tell the Kryn we don't speak crazy. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Phillips led Fighter Wing Alpha from her cockpit. 800 small craft launched from the carriers, forming into attack formations. Her fighter was fast and deadly, armed with missiles and plasma cannons. She had trained for years for combat that might never come. Now it was here. Alpha Wing, stay tight, she called to her pilots. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we get out before they can grab us. These things like to snatch fighters and absorb them. Don't let them. The Kryn fleet accelerated toward the human defensive line. They didn't bother with tactics or formations. They simply came forward in a massive wave, trusting their numbers to overwhelm any opposition. Admiral Warren waited until they were in optimal range. All ships open fire. The void lit up with violence. Railguns launched projectiles at incredible speeds, tearing through Kryn bioships. Plasma batteries superheated sections of enemy vessels until they burst. Missiles streaked across the darkness, each one carrying enough explosive power to destroy a building. The Kryn took horrific damage. Dozens of their ships exploded or broke apart. But they kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 3 more pushed forward. They returned fire with biological weapons, launching acidic projectiles and parasitic organisms that tried to eat through human shields. Captain Foster's Defiance took a direct hit from a Kryn bioweapon. The shields held, but barely. Return fire, all forward batteries. Target that big ugly one at coordinates 47 Mark III. The Dreadnought's main guns fired in sequence. 6 railgun rounds hit the Kryn command ship, each impact creating explosions of organic matter. The enemy vessel shuddered but didn't stop. It's still coming, the tactical officer said, then hit it again. And again. Keep firing until it's dead or we are. Lieutenant Phillips dove her fighter through a gap in the Kryn formation. Her wing followed, strafing a bioship's surface with plasma fire. The enemy vessel's skin bubbled and burned. Behind her, 2 of her pilots weren't fast enough. Tentacles shot out from another Kryn ship and grabbed their fighters, pulling them into digestive chambers. Alpha 9 and 12 are down, she reported, her voice tight. Continuing attack run. The battle turned into a brutal close-range fight. Human ships and Kryn biovessels clashed at distances where captains could see their enemies on visual screens. Destroyers rammed enemy ships when their weapons ran dry. Carriers kept launching fighters even as Kryn boarding organisms tried to breach their hulls. The Varath defense fleet, though small and damaged from previous battles, fought with desperate courage. Their ships were older and less powerful than human vessels, but they knew every trick for fighting the Kryn. They targeted weak points and drew enemy fire away from human positions. Admiral Warren coordinated the chaos from the Liberty. His tactical officer, Danny Cruz, managed data from hundreds of ships, tracking damage, ammunition levels, and enemy movements. Sir, the Kryn are trying to flank us on the port side, Cruz reported. They're pushing toward Varath Prime with about 300 ships. Warren didn't hesitate. Forward all reserves to port. And get me Captain Foster. Foster's face appeared on the screen, smoke visible behind him. His ship had taken heavy damage. Sir? Ryan, I need you to do something stupid. Take your dreadnought and 6 destroyers. Ram straight into that flanking force. Break their momentum. Foster smiled grimly. Stupid is my specialty, sir. We're moving. The Defiance and its escort group turned toward the Kryn flanking maneuver. They accelerated to ramming speed, every weapon firing. The lead dreadnought crashed into the Kryn formation like a hammer into glass. Bioships exploded or spun away. The 6 destroyers followed, firing at point-blank range. But the Kryn adapted. They swarmed the Defiance, dozens of ships latching onto its hull. Acidic fluids ate through armor. Boarding organisms tried to force their way inside. Sir, we're being overwhelmed, Foster's tactical officer said. We need to pull back. Negative, Foster said firmly. If we pull back, they break through to Varath Prime. All power to forward weapons. Keep firing. The Defiance's bridge shook as explosions rocked the ship. Systems failed. Fire broke out in 3 sections. But the dreadnought kept shooting, kept fighting, buying time for other ships to close the gap. Admiral Warren watched the situation. Foster's sacrifice was working. The Kryn flanking force had stalled, but the Defiance was dying. All available ships get to the Defiance, now. 20 human vessels broke from their positions and rushed to help. They hammered the Kryn ships surrounding the dreadnought. Slowly, desperately, they carved out space. Foster, get your crew to the escape pods, Warren ordered. Not yet, sir, Foster replied. His screen showed a bridge filled with smoke and sparks. We can still fight. We can still... Wait. Cruz, are you tracking this? On the tactical display, something changed. The Kryn formation shifted. All their ships reoriented toward one massive biovessel at the center of their fleet. It was 3 times larger than any other Kryn ship. That's their command node, Foster said. That's the swarm mind that controls the others. If we kill that, Warren understood immediately. All ships, new priority target. Focus all fire on the Kryn command vessel. Hit it with everything we have. Every human ship that could turn toward the massive bioship, fighters strafed its surface. Destroyers launched their remaining missiles. The 3 undamaged dreadnoughts fired their main guns in coordinated salvos. The Kryn command vessel tried to retreat, but it was too large and slow. Human weapons tore into it, creating massive wounds in its organic structure. The creature screamed, a psychic wail that echoed through space. Captain Foster, his ship breaking apart around him, made one final decision. Helm, full power to engines. Ram that thing. Sir, we'll never survive the impact. I know. Do it anyway. The Defiance, burning and dying, accelerated toward the Kryn command ship. It covered the distance in seconds. The dreadnought's armored prow struck the command vessel's main neural cluster and kept going, driving deep into the creature's core. The explosion was visible from the planet below. The Kryn command ship detonated, taking the Defiance with it. The blast wave destroyed another 6 Kryn vessels and damaged dozens more. And then something extraordinary happened. The Kryn fleet stopped attacking. Individual ships began firing at each other, confused and leaderless. Some simply drifted. Others fled back toward faster-than-light jump points. The swarm mind is dead, Cruz said, his voice filled with awe. They're scattered. Don't let them regroup, Warren ordered. Pursue and destroy. I want every Kryn ship either dead or driven from this system. The human fleet, exhausted and bloodied, chased down the fleeing enemy. It took hours to finish the job. When it was done, the space around Verath Prime was filled with debris from both sides. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But the cost made victory taste like ash. 3 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The Great Chamber was packed with representatives from every member species. The humans sat in their usual section, but all eyes were on them. Ambassador Lisa Morton knew this day would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. Admiral Jack Warren attended despite his injuries. A Kryn acid weapon had burned through his ship's hull and caught him in the blast. Half his face was wrapped in medical bandages. He walked with a cane. But he refused to miss this session. Counselor Zeth Prime called the chamber to order. His crystalline body showed colors that no one could quite interpret. We are here to address the human military action at Verath Prime. This body must decide what consequences, if any, should follow. Several species immediately called for humanity's expulsion. The Luminari envoy, Kareth, spoke passionately about the sanctity of council law and the danger of allowing military action without proper authorization. If we permit one species to deploy war fleets without council approval, we invite chaos, Kareth argued. The humans may have acted from good intentions, but they violated our most fundamental principles. There must be consequences. Ambassador Morton was given the floor to respond. She stood calmly, though her heart raced. Honored council members, I will not deny what we did. Yes, we deployed our fleet without permission. Yes, we violated protocol. The question is why we did it and whether we were right to do so. She pulled up the timeline on the main display. When the Verath first called for help, the council voted to send a diplomatic mission. That mission would have arrived 6 weeks later. During those 6 weeks, 14 more Verath worlds fell. That's 22 billion people dead while we debated proper greeting protocols. The chamber stirred uncomfortably. Morton continued. The human fleet arrived in less than a week. We established defensive positions. We evacuated civilian populations from threatened worlds, and when the Kryn came, we fought them, not because we wanted war, but because it was the only option left. Senator Greg Mitchell stood next to her. Some of you are thinking that surely there could have been another way. Surely diplomacy could have worked. Let me show you something. He played the Kryn's only communication, the psychic scream of hunger and hate. Then he showed footage from the battle, the bioships made from consumed victims, the weapons that dissolved organic matter, the complete absence of any attempt to negotiate or retreat. That is what we faced, Mitchell said. Not an enemy with grievances to address or terms to negotiate. Just pure consumption. The galaxy had a choice. Stop them with force or let them eat everything in their path. We chose to stop them. Admiral Warren asked permission to speak. When granted, he limped to the center of the chamber. His bandaged face and cane made him look fragile, but his voice was strong. I commanded that fleet. I gave the orders that resulted in 47 ships destroyed and 6,000 deaths. Those losses are my responsibility and I carry them, but I would make the same choice again tomorrow." He paused, looking around at the assembled species. "Some of you have asked why humanity acted so decisively, so quickly. Let me tell you about human history. We've had wars that killed hundreds of millions. We've faced enemies who wanted to exterminate entire peoples. We learned through terrible experience that some threats cannot be talked away. They can only be stopped. And that gives you the right to decide for the council?" A delegate challenged. "No," Warren said quietly. "But it gave us the duty to act when no one else would. The Verath were dying. Every hour of delay meant more deaths. We didn't have time to build consensus or follow proper channels. We had time to choose, act or watch genocide happen." The chamber fell silent. Then the Verath Queen Mother, Thessia, requested permission to address the council. She approached the center on her insectoid legs, moving with the grace of her species. "Honored members, I speak for 24 billion Verath who are alive today because humanity acted. Before the humans came, we had accepted our extinction. We were preparing death ceremonies, not evacuation plans. We believed the council would try to help, but we knew that help would come too late." Her antennae trembled with emotion. Then 340 human ships appeared. They asked for nothing. They demanded no payment or territory. They simply positioned themselves between us and death. And when the Kryn came, they fought with a courage I have never seen. She turned to look directly at Admiral Warren. "One of your captains, Ryan Foster, sacrificed his ship and his life to destroy the Kryn command vessel. His final transmission was not a cry for help or a prayer. It was a simple message. Tell my family I died so children could live. How can we condemn a species capable of such selflessness?" President Catherine Blake appeared via holoconference from Earth. She addressed the council directly. "Members of the Galactic Council, I authorize the fleet deployment. If you must punish anyone, punish me. But before you decide, consider what this moment represents." She gestured to the data screen showing the battle aftermath. "The Kryn have terrorized this region of space for centuries. 12 species extinct, countless worlds consumed, and they were never stopped because the galaxy chose diplomacy over action. We chose action because lives mattered more than protocol." Blake's expression softened. "I'm not saying violence is always the answer. Humanity knows the cost of war better than most. But we also know the cost of inaction. We've seen what happens when good people talk while evil acts. We won't make that mistake again." She outlined a proposal that had been developed over the past 3 weeks. "I propose the Terran doctrine, diplomacy first, always. But when innocent lives are being destroyed and talking has failed, force becomes necessary. Not for conquest or control, but for protection." Counselor Zeth Prime had been silent throughout. Now he spoke, his colors shifting to thoughtful blues. "President Blake, what you propose is a fundamental change in how the Council operates. We have maintained peace for 10,000 years through patient negotiation. And in those 10,000 years, how many species like the Verath faced extinction while the Council debated?" Warren asked. "How many died waiting for help that came too late or never came at all?" The question hung in the air. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The truth was that the Council's perfect record of peace existed partly because they avoided situations where violence might be necessary. The vote took 3 days. Species argued, debated, formed coalitions, and broke them. Some wanted humanity expelled immediately. Others wanted to grant them special military authority. Most fell somewhere in between. In the end, the Council reached a compromise. Humanity would not be expelled. Instead, they would be given a new role, shield bearers of the Council. They would train and lead a joint defense force drawn from all willing species. This force would have the authority to act in emergency situations, with oversight from Council leadership. It wasn't perfect. It came with restrictions and requirements, but it meant that never again would the galaxy stand helpless while innocent people died. 6 months later, Ambassador Morton stood on Verath Prime at a memorial ceremony. A massive monument had been erected, showing human and Verath figures standing together against a dark sky. The names of the 6,000 human dead were carved into one side. The names of the 47 ships were on the other. The inscription at the base read simply, "They came not as conquerors but as brothers in arms." Admiral Warren, mostly healed now, stood beside her. Below them, human officers worked with Verath, Luminari, and dozens of other species. The Joint Defense Force was taking shape. Shipyards built vessels designed by multiple species. Training centers taught tactics to mixed crews. Do you think it will work? Morton asked. Can we actually teach the galaxy to fight when necessary? Warren watched a young Verath pilot practicing combat maneuvers with a human instructor. We don't need to teach them to fight. We need to teach them when fighting is necessary and when it isn't. That's the hard part. On Earth, Captain Foster's family received the Council's highest honor for civilian courage. His daughter, only 7 years old, asked President Blake a question that would become famous. Did my daddy save people? Blake knelt to the child's level. Your father saved billions of people. He proved that humanity's strength isn't in our weapons or ships. It's in our willingness to risk everything for others. The story of the Battle of Verath Prime spread throughout the galaxy. Some species saw it as humanity's dangerous military nature. Others saw it as humanity's compassion taken to its ultimate form. Most saw it as both, which was closer to the truth. Commander Kyle Brennan, promoted to captain, took command of a new vessel. The ship was jointly crewed by humans and 5 other species. His mission was to patrol the frontier, looking for threats before they became crises. On his first day, he received a message from Admiral Warren. Remember, Captain, we're not looking for fights. We're preventing them. But if prevention fails, hit hard and hit fast. Lives depend on your judgment. Brennan looked at his mixed species crew and felt a strange pride. They were the first generation of what the galaxy could become. Different species working together, combining their strengths. Helm, take us out, he ordered. Let's go keep people safe.